In 3, 2, 1, here we go. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're just going to give it another minute or two just to wait for anyone else who's joining us today to do so. It'll be great to know who's joining us today, though. So in the little Q&A bit, if you could just, if you want to, that is, of course, you want to give your name, the company you're calling from, we'll do you a quick shout out. But like I said, we'll start in the next 2 minutes or so. So a quick shout out, we've got Chris and Dean joining us from Miller's Vanguard, so good morning and welcome. So if you're just joining us now, welcome. We're going to give it, I'll give it another 30 seconds to a minute, so just to wait for anyone else who's joining us today to join us. But in the meantime, if you've just joined us, you want a bit of a quick shout out, great to know you're joining us. So in the Q&A section, if you just leave your name and the company you're calling from, and I'll just give you a quick shout out. But like I said, we'll probably start in the next, 45 seconds now. Right, I think we will start then. So again, good morning and welcome to our webinar today, keeping your IT ahead of the game. I hope you're all well, hope you're all keeping safe and well. Just before we start, I just want to do a quick introduction to everyone who's joining us today. So we're joined, I'm Felix, I'm your host. Hopefully some of you have joined us on other webinars we've run recently. I'm one of the marketing managers here at BCN Group. We're joined by Miles Bartlett, who's our head of service delivery, Michael Simmons from our partners at ConnectWise, and Dean Osborne, who's again from ConnectWise. Both Miles and Dean will be your main speakers for today. However, before I hand over to those guys, I'm conscious that some of you may or may not be aware of BCN Group, and this is probably your first time getting to know us and know who we are. So I just want to run through a quick sort of information about BCN Group. We've got some information, got some stats, got some figures here that I'm not going to go through in any particular order. So we were established around about 11 years ago, 10 plus years ago. In fact, I think April this year was our 11th birthday, so we're just over 11 and a half years old now. We're located across 4 sites. Manchester being in our head office, we're in Leeds, we're in Chorley, and we're at Runcorn. Yes, they are very sort of northern-based locations, but we do consider ourselves an IT MSP across the entire country. They're just our main core bases. We have a team around about 180 members of staff or colleagues. The vast majority of that, because we're a tech business and we see ourselves as a technology business, the vast majority, I think around about 60 to 70% of our team is made up of some form of a technical based role. So whether that be through our pre-sales guys, our installation, our project management, or our IT support side, both reactive and proactive support. Yeah, the vast majority of that team is made up within that set role. It actually happens that our IT support team is the biggest by far across the entire business. But I'll talk more a little bit about that shortly. We currently support over 30,000 individual users, and we work with over 1,100 companies. Some of them are support customers, some of them are not support customers. We have around between 500 and 600, I believe it is. Miles, I'm sure, will obviously correct me if I'm wrong, if the number's a lot higher than that, of actual businesses that we support. And we have a customer retention rate of around about 98%. When we work with you, we don't consider ourselves as just a provider or a supplier. We actually work with you on that partnership level. We become a partner, we get to know your business. And that's why our customer retention rate is really, really high, because people enjoy that sort of approach that we take with your business. We don't really tend to talk too much about the 2% who are not with us anymore. Because we are an IT business and technology business, I should say, sorry, we don't just offer little bits of technology here and there, which means you then have to go and work with another provider. We actually work across the board. We believe that actually the best approach to technology is taking that holistic approach. So BCN Support, that's one of the reasons why you're all joining us today. This is all about that proactive support element to our business, and why businesses need to embrace that approach. As I mentioned before, our IT support side is actually the biggest department that we have across the business. I believe it takes around, we have 40, so I said before, between 60 and 70% of our business is made up of people in technology role. Around about 40% actually is made up of people within that support function, and we work within a pod-based structure, which means that you will, whenever you come on as a support customer, you get assigned to a pod. That pod knows your business like the back of their hand, and you get to form a relationship with those people in that pod as well. And a pod's made up of first line, second line, and escalation team members as well. So they go through all the different levels of the support process. BCN Protect is, well, it's kind of what it says on the tin, really. It's part of it is around about keeping your cyber defenses secure, keeping the bad guys out, making sure your data, so you're not held to ransom with any attacks that are coming down the line. But it's also about protecting your data if the worst was to happen in terms of a flood in your office, or a fire, or loss of data or anything like that. It's making sure that your documentation can be restored as quickly as possible and efficiently as possible, whilst maintaining your operations. So we do that through cloud backup and cloud disaster recovery, as well as the cyber security as well. BCN development is, we're quite unique. We have quite a large development team, both .NET and SharePoint development, and also Power BI as well. So once we've protected your data, it's actually how can you utilize that data more effectively and efficiently, and therefore make better business decisions or faster business decisions. Our BCN Collaborate, so this has obviously been massive in 2020. It was already getting big over the last couple of years, but the modern way of working, the modern workplace, has completely evolved in 2020. So we're all communicating today through Teams. Many of us have been using Teams a lot more aggressively over 2020 with the current pandemic that's going on and the call to work from home. So Collaborate is all about how we can improve the way you communicate together, both internally and externally. You know, you never miss a telephone call because you've got a cloud telephony infrastructure. You can actually share documents together quickly. You can work on documents together at the same time, so you're not having to control lots of different versions. You're actually working off that one version. So it's all about boosting the productivity, boosting the agility of your workplace. And then platform, you know, we've got all these fantastic services, but they need kind of to sit somewhere. So, you know, we are a cloud first business. We believe in the cloud, and we believe that actually the benefits can enhance every business across the entire UK. However, we are not guided. We don't guide you based on our own beliefs. Actually, we work with you and actually developing a platform which works for you. So we do both public cloud through Azure and private cloud for our own BCN cloud infrastructure. We can work with you if you want to go on-premise, so we can build infrastructure on site or at a secondary location. But actually, if you wanted to work the two together, we can offer you a hybrid approach where we can host your business critical applications and services both on the cloud and some on-prem. So actually your users will be mixing between the two, but never really realizing. But it's all about creating a more agile, more scalable infrastructure that, again, ensures that productivity and agility and the ability to adapt is still there. Like I said, we're a technology business. We make sure that everything kind of works together, and we believe that our approach does all work together. In order to deliver a lot of these services, we obviously work with a lot of partners across the board. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single one. You want to be hearing more from Miles and Dean as opposed to me to go and talk about every single partner here. But if I take a quick snapshot, we're a Microsoft Gold partner, Fortinet for security, Pauline Yaling for modern workplace. But one of the reasons why here, and they've joined us today as well, we are a ConnectWise Automate partner. I'm not going to steal Dean's thunder too much, but we are a partner of theirs, and that's what I really want to highlight as part of today's webinar. So, that's kind of like a really whistle-stop tour about BCN Group. We could provide more information once we get to know us a little bit more at a later date. Just before I hand over to Miles, who's got from BCN Group side, so he can start talking to you about service continuity and keeping your IT ahead of the game and why it's important. I just want to say that this is a fully interactive session. It's not about ourselves, Miles, myself, and BCN and ConnectWise. It's actually want to make sure that you guys get as much out of this as possible. So as I mentioned at the start, there is a Q&A section. Please feel free to all the way through today's webinar, today's presentation, that you put your questions in, and what we'll do is we'll come to the end and I'll read them out, and then one of those guest speakers today will be able to answer them. So like I said at the start, that's kind of it from me, and I'd like to hand over to our Head of Service Delivery, Miles Bartlett.
Thank you, Dan. Morning, everyone. So as Dan mentioned, I'm the Head of Service Delivery here at BCN. I look after the support team and the service continuity team here in Leeds. So the support team, they look after your traditional break fix support. So whether that's an issue with a printer, someone not being able to log in, not get emails through Outlook, that kind of stuff, that's where those guys would spring into action. However, from our side and from a customer point of view, more is demanded in terms of wanting a more proactive approach to things, which is where our service continuity team comes into play. It gives an opportunity to be proactive and to look after that end user experience and not just fight the fires as they're coming in, but to take a considered and strategic approach to helping avoid fires in the first place where we can. The business has brought in some brilliant people and deployed systems like ConnectWise to help drive this forward. But the main thing that underpins it all really is just the mindset behind it, to want to improve, want to move forward, want to do better for ourselves and for our customers as well. So at the heart of all this, for the service continuity team, who are responsible for looking at the alerts that come in from ConnectWise, is monitoring, it's patching, and the automation side of things as well, which I'll be running through right now for you. Can we go next slide, Dan? Thank you. So why monitoring matters. So as I said, the service continuity team, they look after our monitoring platform, ConnectWise. At the moment, we have over 6,000 devices that's spread across 500 clients deployed on there. And a big thing in terms of making sure that they're effective with how they work is that we have that relationship with ConnectWise to make sure that we're deploying for best practice, to make sure that's passed on to customers as well. So as I said, the key really for that team is not just about sitting there waiting for alerts to flag up, but it's about being able to prevent issues before they happen. So, for example, things like disk space issues on servers go straight through to the team with specific priorities to specific members of the team and with specific course of action as well, to make sure that that's dealt with promptly and efficiently, to make sure that any outages or major incidents as a result of a server running out of disk space is avoided where we can. So it's really about making sure that we're engaging people, the right people at the earliest possible stage, which for the most part are the engineers at BCN, but that can also include yourselves as well as a customer. It may be that more storage is needed, or that we need to work with you to clear down particular disks in that instance as well. So it's about making sure that we get off the mark as quick as possible. As far as key vendor relationships goes, one of the big advantages for us and for our customers as well with ConnectWise is the vendor integration for some of our big partners, as Dan talked about before. We've got the likes of Veeam and ESET, who are heavily integrated with ConnectWise, which gives us fantastic intelligence as to the health and status of our customers' environments, not only with the more traditional things out the box, like your disk space monitors, memory utilization, things like that, but also monitors and alerts specific to antivirus and to backup technologies as well. And then on to patching. So we all know this year's been a little bit strange, to say the least. So I'm sure, like for yourselves, like with us at BCN, our working routines have changed significantly this year, and a big part of that is obviously around remote working, where I'm sure most of us are today. And it's that split between, you know, whether we're working from home or in the office, and the challenges that introduces from an IT management and governance point of view. With people working from home, that surface areas of risk is not only increased but completely changed in what that looks like, as to where you as a business needs to be considering what needs to be in place. It's no longer just about having antivirus on a device, or making sure that it's physically secure in a building. With people working from home, and there's inherently other people on that same network that aren't part of the business, as well as relying on people's home setups to be secure as well. So one of the key areas that we're helping customers with around this with ConnectWise is around patching, to make sure that solutions out there, whether that be from a server point of view or end users at home, are up to date and are patched as they should be. It's sad to see as well that with the working from home situation that we've had this year, that we are seeing people capitalize and make the most of this, and are looking for exploits, because they know full well that there will be businesses out there that haven't been prepared, that haven't taken the right steps to secure the machines that are on their network, even if they are not in the office any longer. So one of the key things that we're delivering with ConnectWise is a patching solution that doesn't need presence on a corporate network. So traditionally with patching, what would happen is a device would need to be on or in the office, whether it be on a VPN or in the office physically, to deploy the latest patches, to be monitored and make sure that everything's up to date. But with cloud working, as Dan talked about before, and remote working as well for users, quite often people aren't sat there on a VPN, or even if they are, traditional patching solutions do struggle with the amount of data that needs to pass over it. So the solution with ConnectWise enables us to deploy patches across our user estate, irrespective of where they are, as long as they've got an internet connection, which everyone will undoubtedly have to make sure that they can work and access those cloud services. We make sure they're getting patched. And the key for us as well is that we can balance that risk of people being at home on their own networks by having a single set of data to audit and understand the health not only of a single customer, but across our entire user base, as to who's patched, who's not, and where we need to be having these proactive conversations with customers to talk about security, to talk about what the future looks like, which doesn't obviously just reflect on the 2020 that we've had, but what next year and beyond will bring for office working, remote working, and which is obviously going to vary from company to company. So it gives us fantastic visibility to move that forward, and to take some of the burden as well off in-house IT teams, who are traditionally been responsible for making sure that that patches are up to date and deployed across the user estate. The last key thing to mention on this is just around the proactive and I suppose moving on to the reactive element of this, in that if a patch did fail on a single device, then that would log a ticket for us, and that will be picked up by the service continuity team. And we've seen plenty of examples where traditional patching solutions such as WSUS has been deployed, and patches haven't been rolled out, and it's been weeks or months before somebody's realised that a number of devices haven't had specific updates across the user estate. So this brings it much more real time and gives us the opportunity to then have a look at that machine, investigate, resolve, and importantly, more importantly than anything, is to get it patched and up to date. And the last aspect of things really from me is the automation side of it, which is hugely important to us and has been a massive step forward since we've started working with ConnectWise, which is not only having that data available, but having a platform that the techies love using, and they love using it because they can make a real difference. So if we're seeing things come through, the techies don't want to see the same things come through again and again. They want to be empowered to put things in place, whether that be with scripting or with set routines and process, so that if a particular instance happens, whether that be disk space, for example, as I talked about earlier, that we can then start to run through a routine to help require somebody needing to manually intervene. So, for example, it might go through and start clearing down maybe temporary files or recycle bin or something like that to help manage the situation. The power of ConnectWise enabling us to push these boundaries really and truly leverage the expertise as well that we have in-house, which is ultimately designed to reduce the number of major incidents for our customers, increase stability and reduce frustration at the end of the day, because we know that whenever there's an outage or if a customer's having to call us, inherently they're frustrated because something within their IT infrastructure isn't working how they want it to, and that could be preventing them doing what they need to do on that day. So this is about us trying to do everything that we possibly can with the people and the tools that we've got to hopefully reduce that and to make the end user experience as positive as it can be. So on that note, I'll hand over to Dean, who's going to take you through some of these areas in a little bit more detail. Over to you, Dean.
Cool, thank you, Miles. So yeah, just first off, so hello, my name is Dean Osborne. I'm a sales engineer here at ConnectWise. However, before joining ConnectWise, I was actually a partner for 11 years. So actually worked from the MSP side. So worked for an MSP before it was called an MSP. So I'm also joined by my colleague Michael Simmons, who will be on hand to help with answer any questions if they come up. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to cover off ConnectWise history, just to give you a little bit of a background about our company. We're going to then delve into some of the services that Automate delivers, and then cover off some of the benefits of being a BCN partner who are using Automate, of course. Cool. So ConnectWise is a software company that develops applications predominantly with an MSP focus, having initially started as an MSP in 1982 and only initially developed tools for its own use. We're now a global organisation of around 2,500 employees and 100 odd in the UK itself, covering over the EMEA region, so Europe and that sort of areas. And we're also proud to have retained the crown as the Channel Pro Reader's Choice Award, as you can see there on the screen. So we like what we do. Yeah, so we want to make sure that people understand that what we're doing is delivering value. So we're very proud to receive those awards. So next slide, please. Cool. So we're going to go through, and as I said, we're going to cover off the Automate services and what it delivers. So whilst Automate is a vast tool set, I want to cover off just some of the key areas which will impact you, the end user, or not, which is the plan. So we want to make sure that everything that is going on is happening behind the scenes to do that, to try to remediate things before it becomes an issue for you, to patch the devices before it becomes a security issue. So we're going to cover off some of the key areas today, which is going to include patching, Ignite monitoring, and our network mapping. So the first bit is the patching. So this is predominantly the Microsoft patching, but we also do include third-party patching as well. So by offering seamless standardization on one hand and granularization on the other, ConnectWise Automate's patching module takes the management headache away from the MSP and reduces downtime for the end users. Without going into heavy detail, rather than trying to work against Microsoft tools for deploying patches, Automate manipulates Microsoft's built-in patching module to control when to patch what to patch, and how it patches that deploys patches that require reboot. We can see from this graphical representation that compliance levels, whether any devices need attention. So we've got the 96 that you can see there. The needs attention is flagging for things like, is it flagged for a reboot? Is it unable to scan for patches, which happens from time to time? I'll be honest, it's moved. Microsoft have resolved that, which is why it's really useful that we're utilising their module. And then any legacy things. If we're looking after any Windows 7 or 2008 R2 devices, which are obviously end of life now, but there are some circumstances where that might still need to be as part of your environments. We're going to make sure that we are still protecting those. So whilst we offer manual approvals, as you can see here, there is a process that we go through where BCN will go through and do approval process. So actually to check that a patch is ready to be approved, and actually that gives them the granularity that if a patch gets released that causes issues with any of your applications, there's the ability to roll that back and actually stop it from deploying in the first place. So that granularity and level of control is within BCN's hands to actually go through and manage that process. So therefore, we've also got the automatic approval. So this is for the 0-day patches. This is for the likes of patches that come out from Microsoft where they deem it that it's mission critical, it's going to be causing an issue. So therefore, these patches can automatically be set to approved, and they will automatically be distributed on the next patching cycle. So that's an automated process that will take away the human error just in case we forgot to do our patch checks or anything like that. We want to make sure that actually BCN are automatically bridging and blocking those security holes for you automatically as soon as they possibly can. Okay, so the next area that I want to jump into is what we class as Ignite monitoring. So ConnectWise automates Ignite monitoring is our default out-of-the-box solution, where we worked directly with Microsoft to develop and are continuing maintaining a vast tool set of monitors which automatically detect the features and roles of the servers and deploys monitors based on what good looks like to ensure that the servers are functioning to the best of their ability, predicting issues before they become an impact to the end user. So trying to really identify those things that happen. We know they happen because it's Microsoft, it's best in class, but it's still got a few things that we need to make sure that we are maintaining to make sure it's doing it. To achieve that, what we're going to be doing is identifying the core services of all of the servers, whether it's the domain controller, whether it's DNS, DHCP. So those core features and roles of what a server will do. Any web or proxy servers. So this is going to be the likes of if you're hosting IIS or SharePoint. Likewise, also if you're doing any databasing. So this is going to be including MySQL or MS SQL. Once it is detected what they are, then what it's going to do, it's going to apply a selection of performance monitors, service monitors. So that's the Windows services. So actually to make sure that if a service isn't running, it's going to flag it to BCN to make them aware that a service that is critical to performance of whichever function or role is being executed there is one flagged to BCN. But this is where Automate kicks in. It's going to try and automatically resolve that issue as well. It's also going to be looking at event log monitors. So this is if a certain event log happens, what is the first action that would happen? Yeah, so this is going to be, it's going to handle all of that. So basically we're also going to be doing network port monitors as well. So basically, once it understands what services the servers are offering, it knows what ports should be open to deliver services to end users. So just because the server is up and functioning, if a certain port is closed, it wouldn't be able to, for argument's sake, give you an IP address if those ports were closed and unable to communicate. Okay. So the next piece is our network mapping. So it is expected from an end user, as in client level, that all MSPs will be keeping and maintaining asset management records, and Automate helps not only deliver on that side of the house, but it's also creating a live self-generating network map of all of the devices on the network. This includes not only servers and workstations, but also switches, firewalls, printers, basically anything with an IP address. So this is going to go through, map it all out. So this can be used as a tool for BCN to go through and assist you if you're reporting an issue. Let's say it was on the left hand side of that map and all of those icons have all gone red. They would therefore know that either that switch has failed or that link to that switch has failed. So it's going to give them a tool to actually I suppose, react to, but it's also going to be able to there keep a track of to understand how your network all bolts together. If you're trying to expand it out or understand how it all goes through, look at the different pain points, look at bottlenecks, all of those different pieces that BCN are going to be able to do, to use to give you advice, to understand, to make sure your network is performing the best it can be. This is going to be a tool that's going to go through and help there. So basically what we're going to do, so as I said, this is expected to happen. So why is that relevant here? Basically, this used to be a manual process that would take time to complete manually. I used to have to do it in my early days at my MSP, 5 Visio drawings, and that takes time. Yeah, it takes time. And the other thing is it's actually out of date as soon as you finish doing it. I used to do it once a month for some of my larger customers, and it was out of date. As soon as I'd finished it, things would change. Yeah, it's a network. Things change. Somebody joins the network. Somebody brings in a device that joins it into there. This is going to go through, track, and keep that all up to date. The other side of that is actually that used to be a billable expense. So that was something that I used to sit there, and it was on my client's time. So like same difference it would be with BCN, but the advantage being that because this is now a self-generating map, they can now get on and do more meaningful engagements with you to actually try and understand how it all bolts together, giving you guidance about how to make improvements rather than just sitting there drawing it out, understanding how it all bolts together, because it's going to pull in all of the IP information. It's going to show all of the SNMP information to actually understand how it's all working. Cool. So the next section we're going to go through is just to highlight some of the benefits of being a BCN partner. So building upon Ignite's feature set, we have also developed what we class as auto heals to automatically take the initial actions an MSP would. So for argument's sake, if a service has stopped, which, as I said, we're going to be picking it up from using the features and roles that were identified using Ignite. If a service is stopped, the first thing that a technician is going to do is going to start that service. So we've built that auto fix action. Yeah, so it's going to go through and it's going to start it, and it will advise BCN, was it successful or not? It will go say, yep, I've managed to do that for you. Yeah, therefore those issues are fixed instantaneously. Otherwise, it's going to go back to BCN and let them know, actually, it's going to take a little manual intervention. Yeah, something's going on here. We're not sure. We're going to pass it on to you, and it's going to be flagged to BCN to go through and resolve. Likewise, if it's going to, if it was running out of disk space, it could be actually it's going to flag it at whatever percentages that it's been flagged at. The initial actions of a BCN technician would be to run up cleanup routines. Yeah, so just that Automate is going to do those initial steps. It's going to go through an MTLC Windows temp. It's going to clear up legacy Windows update files. So it's going to take all of those processes for you. Another example would be maybe a killer bad process. It could be that actually there are some, I hate to say it, but some malware maybe. Yeah, so actually what Automate would be able to do is detect as soon as that process had started, it would be able to kill it. So back in the early days when malware started becoming a thing, it was very easy to kill. So basically it would pop up on the screen and you couldn't get anywhere. By utilizing Automate, you can have that process that is making that pop up on your screen automatically close and stay closed. So you can also flag things like blacklisted software. So if there was applications that shouldn't be installed on your network, so you've gone through, you've worked with BCN to identify what applications are allowed in your network and which ones aren't, you can build that out with BCN, and they're going to go through and have that blacklisted, and it can automatically be removed if you're wanting it to. Which then takes me on to the next section, which is as BCN use Automate, they've got the ability to work closely with you so that we can build out Automate to take those initial first actions that are more relevant to your unique environments. This could be a line of business application. So you've got a certain application, it's unique to you. Yeah, you're going to do it slightly differently. We need to make sure that when this happens, we want to restart this application. All those different pieces, BCN are going to be able to work with you and take that automatic auto fix remediation, yeah, and start building that out. It could even be when maybe an event log happens. All we do whenever this happens, because it's a certain thing, we can't post a ledger or something like that, we let Bob know. Yeah, you can have Automate do that. As soon as this event log happens, it will let Bob know. Bob then knows that he needs to go and do and take this different action. So cool. Then the next section is automated security enforcements, which includes AV management, so antivirus management, and environmental settings. By working with BCN, you'll be able to define how you want your devices maintained from a security standpoint. On top of the AV management, which was mentioned at the beginning. So we're going to have those modules that's going to go through and maintain and ensure that the antivirus is working as it should be. But it could also be that you wanted to find some required system settings, so which can be deployed and maintained seamlessly. It could be, as an example, it could be that you wanted to make sure that a certain location or certain computers weren't able to plug in USB pens. You've got the ability to go through, lock that down, because BCN will be able to work with you and handle all of that. So, cool.
Lovely.
That's me.
That's great. Thank you very much, Dean, for that. And again, thanks to Miles that began. So the floor is kind of basically over to you guys now for you to ask any questions. We've had one or two questions come in during the first part, but again, if you want to have any questions, if you can just leave your name and the company you're coming with us at today, just so I can credit the question to you, that would be fantastic. But if I go to the first question, which is probably more from Miles, I would hazard a guess. The question is, if when rolled out across all devices, do you guys produce, or the service continuity team produce reporting which then can be delivered so we can ensure that all devices and any instances that have happened?
Absolutely, and I'm sad to say that I love reporting, and ConnectWise is brilliant for that, because the granularity that you can get with it is the kind of thing that gets somebody sad like myself really excited, and it's a big part of, not only from a customer facing point of view, to make sure that you guys know and understand the health of your environment, where needs attention and focus, but for us as well. So, as I alluded to earlier, whether we're looking at the overall health of the patching across our customer estate, or potentially backups, we need to be aware of that. And it's the same with things like software that's end of life as well, or coming up to end of life. We want to start having those conversations with customers as soon as we possibly can, before that application, whether that be a Windows Server OS or a client OS, goes end of life, so we can preempt any potential issues that may fall off the back of something like that going end of life with a vendor like Microsoft.
That's great. Thanks, Miles. Next question, and this probably is one for Dean and Miles together. We currently already use a monitoring software. They've not said what it is. However, it has suffered performance issues across all devices. How can we ensure that ConnectWise doesn't do the same, but also how do we roll out effectively? Because my belief is, one rolled out, that's where the performance issue came from.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a little bit, I guess, from our side, but when we deployed ConnectWise across our customer base, it was done very quickly through a staged and tested approach, mind. But we deployed over 6,000 agents, so that's over 6,000 devices that were added onto ConnectWise within the space of a couple of weeks after an initial pilot rollout. And I'm pleased to say that from a performance point of view, we've not had a single instance, and bearing in mind that the BCN end users and our network was part of that as well, and we didn't notice any sort of issues. And the other thing to mention, really, I think from our side, is as part of that deployment, we were deploying the ConnectWise software on top of our old provider as well, because we wanted to make sure that everything was tested and checked as we were moving things over and across. So even with another monitoring solution running as well, we didn't see anything from a performance point of view with the ConnectWise deployment.
Cool. So just to expand upon that, so the way that the architecture works from within Automate is it's got a small footprint. So the idea is that actually what it will do is it will just, from the monitoring standpoint as to what's going on, it's running. It's also going to be passing things through to the Automate server, but that's going to be using low bandwidth to actually push that through. But also it's going to be running and designed to be run. Some of the monitors are actually executing directly on the endpoints themselves, so that is going to limit the actual bandwidth that's pushing out to the Automate server. But also it means that it's live. So actually, for some of those examples that we're doing there, is watching what applications are. If an application starts that shouldn't be, it's going to close it straight away. It's using very low bandwidth. It's no different to if you were to ever have Task Manager sitting up on your screen, not using hardly any resources, but actually it's Task Manager, but with the auto close functionality. So it's not handling any of that. It's not massively pushing out lots of applications, lots of things like that. With that being said, though, when BCN do start utilizing this to deploy applications to go through and do that mass execution, that mass resolution, what it will do is it's going to use the system idle times. So actually it shouldn't be impacting with the end user. So if it was installing an application that's happening behind the scenes, it will make sure that it's not impacting with their browser they've got open now, their Outlook. It's only going to use the resources that are available at the time. So, cool.
Thanks, Dean. And that's it from our questions we've had. So if you've got any more you want to quickly sneak in before the end of today's webinar, please do so. Just before we wrap it up, I just want to make you know we have got another webinar that's happening just before Christmas time, and one that I would encourage everyone who's joining us today to attend if you're not already done registered. It's around about end user security and modern workplace security. So it's entitled, "Are your end user credentials enough to protect your business?" And in that webinar, we're going to be joined by our internal security expert, Mark Worthington, who's going to talk about why businesses at the moment need to look at better security for their end users, looking at all the functionality that's available. Some of that already comes as part of the Microsoft 365 or Office 365 license. He's going to be talking about what he's seeing that's happening in the security infrastructure place. And actually, now we're, as we've mentioned at the start of this call, and all links together, that we as end users, a lot of us are still working from home, away from the internal security fabric. Actually, why businesses need to look into that a lot more. So I don't think there's any more questions come through. No, there hasn't. I just want to say thank you very much to Dean, Michael and Miles for joining us today. I hope you found today's presentation or today's webinar of interest. We'll make sure you get a copy. We'll make sure you get a copy of the recorded as well, if you want to make any reference. I just want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And again, if you need anything else, please do get in contact. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.